well. That allows a moderation, a moderation of the returns, and it minimizes the vagaries that you're likely to experience by just being a commodities investor. And like I said at the beginning, this investment instrument is available to both retail investors, corporate investors under any category, whether you are a cooperative society, you're a pension fund, you are a firm of trustees, so you can all participate. Why should you participate in the Marble Halal Commodities Fund? There are 5 key reasons that gives you the reason why you must and you should participate in the fund. The first is that it gives you an opportunity to expose yourself to an alternative asset class. The second reason is that it is an ethical investment. So it's an investment that aligns with all the ESG criteria. We are not going to invest in an asset class that will be degrading the environment, and it is all halal. So if you are an Islamic investor or you are one that concerns yourself about only halal type investments, this is an investment you must not allow to pass you by. It is halal. It is reviewed by a competent Sharia board, before investments are made. This investment is based on commodities. And like Ismail said at the beginning, even though initially most of the commodities are going to be agri commodities, it's not just an agri fund. It is a commodities fund. So in the future, we have the ability to invest in energy, condensates, invest in gold, invest in other precious metals, so long as they are ethical, so long as they are halal, and so long as they give decent returns. And I think the final reason why you should look at this fund is that it is prepped on a very solid pedestal of corporate governance. You have very, very key parties as members or parties to the fund, including Stanbic IBTC. The only AAA rated by 2 rating agencies in Nigeria. So their trustees entity is the trustee for this fund. You have the Cardinal Stone registrars as the registrars, and you have the custodians as FSDH, Merchant Bank. They are all duly licensed by the Securities and Exchange Commission. The fund manager is licensed by SEC. The fund itself is approved and licensed by the Securities and Exchange Commission. So it gives you all the reasons why you should invest, in addition to meeting all the regulations of the National Pension Commission, which allows this investment to also be available to PFAs that are looking to invest. The fund is still in its offering stage, in its IPO stage till the end of June. So anybody can still participate at the offer price of 100 naira, which is the unit price right now. The size of the fund is 3 billion, and you're allowed to buy a minimum of 500 units. So please, I will ask participants on this call, if you have not yet invested, please take advantage of this. As you can see from the projected returns, this is likely to be a very good investment that you should look at. We have members of the Sharia board that review the assets, very competent people. Imam Ridwanullah Jamil, who is the chief imam of Lekki Central Mosque in Nigeria, and is very well versed. He has written more than 15 books, a lot of them on Islamic finance and Islamic jurisprudence. You have Dr. Said Adekunle, who is a researcher at ISRA in Malaysia. He's on the advisory committee of BNP Paribas, Taj Bank in Nigeria, and is a highly sought after scholar as far as Islamic finance is concerned. Of course, there are some risks which my colleagues will speak to much later, but the good thing about this fund is, as much as possible, we've tried to mitigate the risks that are likely to happen as far as investing in this fund, including liquidity risk. This is an instrument that's going to be listed on a SEC-approved exchange. We have the FX exchange that trades a lot of commodities. You have the Nigerian government right now that is pulling its weight and ensuring that people invest a lot in the agri space and commodity space. We are expecting to see a rebound in economic growth. This further gives an appeal to investors that are looking to invest in this fund. You have market risk, you have Sharia risk, but all of these are mitigated to a very, very large extent in the structuring of this fund. We have a standing Sharia board that reviews all our assets at all times, and we ensure that because of the liquidity you're going to have, that also eases some of the challenges that you may face. But one thing you should know, as is common especially in Africa, there are a lot of fraudulent schemes, Ponzi schemes out there. The Marble Halal Commodities Fund gives you that mitigation against such, and that is why you should invest in this fund as well. It is halal, and it's also allowing us to meet up with the demand, of the commodities industry in Nigeria and also on the continent. Marble Capital, the fund manager, we are a leading fund manager in Nigeria, especially in the halal space. We are an award winner as the best Islamic asset management firm in 2022 in Nigeria, and we have professionals that are ready and able to assist in managing this fund in a very, very competent way, as demonstrated in the tombstones of some of the transactions the company has gone into. So I will urge us to listen very attentively to this series of presentation we are having this afternoon. I will ask us to participate and invest in the Marble Halal Commodities Fund. I will yield the floor back to Ismail and also be willing to take questions subsequently. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ayuwale, for the very brief and yet insightful presentation about the Marble Halal Commodities Fund. Subsequently, he gave us a very, very, very insightful concept of the Marble Halal Commodities Fund. He told us what the Marble Halal Commodities Fund is: an open-ended fund that is managed by Marble Capital. He gave us some of the benefits, and from his presentation, it shows that the investment is open to a large, is open to everyone in general, from retail investors to PFAs to cooperative societies to retail investors. You can invest by yourself, you can invest on behalf of your minor, you can invest as a corporate organization or an individual. Thank you very much, sir. And we'll proceed to the next presenter, which is Mr. Adeniyi. And please, everyone that has a question should please drop their questions in the comment section. After the presentations, the floor is going to be open for questions and answers. Okay, sir, please, let's hand over to Mr. Adeniyi now so that he can give us his presentation. Thank you very much once again, Mr. Ayuwale.
Yeah, thank you very much. So taking it from where Mr. King stopped, it's very important that commodities is a very vital platform to diversify your portfolio. And Marble has done a great thing to launch the first commodity funds in Nigeria. It's not just a commodity fund; it's also Sharia compliant, which also gives more, opens more products, increase the product offering that is available in that space. So I'll be talking briefly about commodities, what are the benefits of ethical investment in general, and then I'll be drilling down to what are the products that are actually available when they talk about commodity-linked fixed instruments, commodity-linked securitized commodities. So what are we actually talking about? The benefits, and then I'll be talking about the outlook for the rest of the year, looking at some of the factors that are shaping commodities price movement in the markets. Just a moment, I will be sharing my presentation. So speaking to what's also speaking about what ethical investment are. So this is an investment strategy. This is an investment strategy where investors invest along ethical lines, either due to their moral beliefs or religious or social beliefs. And commodities can be classified as an ethical investment, especially when it supports production, fair trade, and has positive impact on our environment and society. And all this doesn't go without benefits. So the first thing is that it has a lot of social impact on the society. I'll be giving some numbers to some of the people that have benefited from some of the programs we've done in the past, and how this program can then be expanded on using this fund as a route to that. So it reduces the level of poverty we have in our society, because this fund is going to be investing in commodities that grown in an ethical way, that are not in such a way that pollutes the environment, or products that are illegal. Also, infrastructural development. And when you look at what ethical investment has done, especially in that space, and through sukuk bonds, introduction of Muraba investments for input distribution to farmers, and also all sorts of things that have actually gone to not just develop the infrastructure, but also look for a way to maintain it and also ensure that it's revenue generating. Also, being able to include our food security, because it's very important that we are self-sustaining. And when we talk about self-sustenance, it's not going to be done without financing from the private sector. So by having people invest in more Sharia compliant instruments, more ethical instruments, that's going to be invested in areas that are in areas that are going to just promote the environment rather than degrade it or just profit seeking alone. Also, I will be giving you some number and explaining how commodity investment is sometimes even better than alternative, better than the traditional asset classes, as well as how you can use it as a way to diversify and hedge against shocks. So looking at commodities as an alternative, so commodities has come to stay and has established itself as a viable alternative besides real estate and derivatives and other forms of alternative investments. Looking at the returns that commodity typically has on an average year, over the last 4 years, we can see that commodity prices have done an average annual return of 29% for maize, soy 26%, and paddy rice. And this goes along other commodity prices. So what we typically experience in Nigeria due to our seasonality of our production is that commodity within a year will do about 30% to 35% on an average year. And some years are lower, some years are higher. But what you can testify is that we see that in the everyday market that we go to. When you go to the market in the rainy season, you see a lot of products like maize at a cheap price. But as you move along the cycle, you then see as prices actually tend to go up. And Marble Capital is very equipped to know the best time to invest in this commodity because since the year 2022, they've been a market maker on FX Commodities Exchange. They are the introducers of the first commodities fund in Nigeria, and they have a lot of expertise to know the best time to enter the market and also the best time to exit the market, as well as over the years they've spent a lot on training their staff on the seasonality of most commodities, not just on the financial side, but even in the physical market itself, having sound understanding of how the pattern of these commodities. So looking at the benefits of commodities investment, you can see that the returns are just as attractive as alternative asset classes, if not better. So this can actually help you diversify your portfolio and also an efficient hedge. Nigeria being a developing country, notice that most of the indices that forecasts inflationary trade are mostly food items. I can see most of the time, even the cost of food items is the major driver for inflation in our inflationary figures. So by investing in this asset class, you are then able to hedge what sort of shocks that then come from rising food prices. So beyond securitized contracts, we also have fixed income instruments that goes to create impacts in the commodity space. And I'll be going over them and the impact that they've had over the years. So the first thing I'll be talking about is the finance note. So this goes to finance farmers. So during the wet season, during the planting season, we disburse chemicals, fertilizers to farmers. And then during harvest, they pay back with seeds, with their grains, harvested grains. And what you can see from this is that more farmers are able to grow the level of production, their production level. That means there's more food in circulation and also goes ahead to reduce the costs of food prices when you go to the markets. Over the years, historically, it has given a return of about 15 to 20% to investors that have invested in these areas. I can see the numerous impacts it has had, while also being Sharia compliant. It is structured as a muraba, so it allows funds to be disbursed without an interest, which is riba. So we can see that over the years, we've had over 46 billion that has been raised from the capital, 200,000 farmers benefiting from this program. So farmers are not the only beneficiaries from this because we've identified that there are three major players in the agricultural space. We have the producers, which are the farmers. We have the aggregators, and then who are your traders. And then we have the agro-processors, which are your food processors, such as flour mills, just to mention a couple of names. So what we did is that we looked for a way to finance the operation of these three major stakeholders to ensure that the prices of commodities are kept at a reasonable level, while also growing the general wealth in circulation, not just for the investors, but also for the beneficiaries. And this is an asset-backed commercial paper that specifically finances tier 2 investors, tier 2 agro-processors. So they are allowed to get access finance at a cheaper rate, and they are using the commodities that they procured to be a collateral. So this way, the investors are not unnecessarily exposed to risks. In terms of default, the commodities can then be limited to pay back. So this way, the obligors in this transaction are covered. They don't get their facilities liquidated, while the investors are not also exposed to unnecessary risks, and there's no diversion of funds through this whole cycle, ring-fencing, transaction ring-fencing. So this is the last. Lastly, this is a trade finance note. Like I mentioned, there are three players, and this goes to finance traders, which are aggregators in the commodity space. So this helps them have access to finance, and also benefits in the sense that by having cheaper cost of financing, they also request for cheaper markups on their products when they go back to sell. So all this just shows the benefits of not just investing in commodities, but also looking at ethical investment as an alternative to just putting your money in for the sake of returns. So looking at the commodity space and what are the factors that will be shaping the outlook for the rest of the year, we can all agree that the recent removal of subsidy has driven the prices of petroleum products, petrol especially, to be at an oil level high. And this is going to have consequences in terms of not just transportation, but also on food prices. So we anticipate a cost-push inflation that will result in an increase in price of commodity as we go towards the next harvest season. Although the prices of commodities directly from the farm was lower than compared to other years, but with this happening, we expect that this will still be higher than it was in previous seasons. So looking at the next thing that is quite important is reduced production. So last year, we can remember that there was very high cost of fertilizer, and towards the rainy season, harvest season, there was huge floods in a notable number of places in Nigeria, especially the areas that produce the major bulk of this commodity. So all this reduced the volumes that is available in the market, and we expect that this will also put an additional pressure on prices. So the next, we'll go to Naira, then I'll come back to international demand, because historically we know that the price of commodities correlates strongly with the price of, especially on the parallel markets, especially in the parallel markets. And what you see is that as long as the price of Naira weakens, the international demand for these commodities will start increasing. And from our analysis from data, we see that there's a 0.9 correlation between the ACI, which is FX Commodity Index, and the Naira movement in the black markets. So all this puts additional pressure on international demand, because farmers are willing at lower dollars, because they know when they convert it to Naira, it's better than what they will get in the local market. So this is also adding to the pressure that we expect to have on the prices. So as Naira continues to weaken, we expect international demand to also increase, taking away the little volume that we claim that is available. So all this is going to require to drive up the price of commodity. And as Mr. Iwole said in his presentation, that the forecast for this year, especially for commodities return, is quite high. And we expect that this will translate to return for investors in the Marble Capital Commodities Fund. So beyond just looking at Marble Capital Ally invests commodity fund from a Sharia lens. I also want you to look at it as an impact investment, because when you put your money into commodities, it goes to the most vulnerable part of the society. So the more wealth you create for the people and the poor, the lower the case of insecurity, the lower the cost of even prices of goods that you end up buying on the market. So I want us to look at this from an ethical standpoint. We need to look at this from a religious standpoint. We also need to look at it from our patriotism to the country. We need to invest in things that will not just bring returns to us, but also ensure that our environment and where we live is actually a safer and a better place. So, like Mr. Oyewole mentioned in his presentation, the fund is going to be listed on Apex Commodities Exchange, and we can assure you that there's price visibility, there's a market that is liquid, and there's easy entry and exit to ensure that the fund is going to perform optimally and even beyond the expected benchmarks. So thank you very much. I would yield the floor back to the moderator at this point. If you have any questions, please just put it in the chat box. I will take them at the end of the session.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adeni. That was a very, very eye-opening presentation. Mr. Adeni took us through a series of that was a very, very insightful presentation. Mr. Adeni took us through the benefits of ethical funds or ethical investment. He also took us through the outlook of the commodities market, where he told us that the commodities market is here to stay. That is, as long as people continue, the population continues to grow, and there's human existence on the planet, there will always be a market for commodities. He gave us the things. He also told us the things to look out for in the near future when it comes to the commodities market. He gave us instances of energy price, reduced production, high cost, reduced production, which could be caused by high cost of fertilizers and the international demand, and the weakening of Naira. Thank you very much, sir. Please, if you have any questions for Mr. Adeni, please kindly drop it in the Q&A section or the chat box. We are going to take all questions, and they are going to be addressed adequately after the webinar. However, I would like to hand over to Mr. Ismail now to give us a deeper insight into the Marble Halal Commodities Fund and definitely contribute to the outlook of the commodities market in the near future. Thank you very much. Mr. Ismail.
Thank you, Zainab. I believe that Kim and me have done an exceptional job in terms of trying to explain what's the potential benefits in investing in the commodity spaces. The fund has been structured as an halal commodity fund because we're looking at avenues to cater for the larger population and not limited. There are people that have restrictions in terms of investment opportunities, and they would not want to invest in things that maybe do not comply with their religious beliefs and mindsets. That's why this commodities fund has been structured in such a way that it meets the criteria for what it's not an interest-based investment. All funds you're investing in the commodity space is based on market performance, not interest, not just fixed interest rate. Likewise, while we invest in the fixed income instruments too, we ensure that they are compliant with things that with the Sharia in the sense that the investments are ethical, they are environmentally friendly, they are not going to cause any form of damage to the environment. Likewise, it's an impact investment, like Nili mentioned. It's supposed to provide aside the returns that seem very, very good. It also provides a form of impact. We have investors that look at how does my investment impact the larger society, the community. We're talking about agri commodities here. The more you are able to provide liquidity for farmers, the more they're able to produce enough to meet the demands. And studies have shown that over the last few years, even with FX being on board, providing sustainable investments in the agri space, we are still not able to meet our consumption rates as for Nigeria. So we still, no matter how much we produce, it's not enough to meet consumption. So we always need investors to come into the space to provide so much more. And that way we'll keep expanding the space, right? So also look at it from the point of view that this one thing that investments, Akim mentioned, the likes of Ponzi schemes, where you can't tie your investment to something tangible, right? The commodities investment, the commodities fund is tied to, there's an underlying asset that is backed by, that's real commodities. If it's even traded from on the equities perspective, it's also real companies that exist. So you rest assured knowing that your investments are not just in thin air, right? They are tied to real assets that generate in and of themselves. They create value. So I think that is why we have considered that allows aspect of it, not limiting it to just one sector or one segment of investors, but taking it all encompassing to say every individual, every HNI, every institution that wants to invest, this is an alternative mode of investment for you to tap into, for you to grow your portfolio and then know that you're diversifying, right? The fund itself is already being diversified, but you as an investor, imagine you also diversifying your investments to alternative modes of investment. So I think that's basically the summary why this fund has been created, to cater for the larger market size, and hopefully it will meet your appetites, your investment appetite. That's basically our summary today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ismail Yahya. That was a very, very nice summary and very insightful one. From what I could gather from your from the presentation that has been given so far, the Mabu Halal Commodities Fund, it's a fund that is not just about gathering profit, or more or less about creating impact and giving class to people who want to compromise their ethical standards or their convictions, rather. And some of the advantages that I could gather from what everybody has said is the fact that the fund is going to be promoting more of domestic manufacturing and lessen importation demand or dependency. And then the investors will be pleased by reviewing all forms of multiple transactions and various it's going to be providing an alternative asset class to investors who, like I said, who wants to have an alternative asset class. And then it will give more opportunities and open more doors to the rural areas, because some of the commodities, some of these agricultural products coming from the rural areas, it will shed more light on those areas, and it will increase the awareness level and open more doors to business going into that route as well. So they also discussed the risk mitigation, the risk that the Mabu Halal Commodities Fund is trying to mitigate, which includes Ponzi schemes and crowdfunding, and as well as people invest. Okay, what I mean by Ponzi schemes and crowdfunding is that it will lessen the risk of people getting scammed by all these people that will just make them false promises, and it will also give people a rest of mind to know when they sleep at night that their funds is being utilized properly. So now we'll open the floor to the question and answer sections. We already have some questions in the chat box, and I'm sure that our panelists are more than ready to answer those questions. She can. Okay, one of the questions is from his side. What has been the appetite of investors for FS commercial paper notes in the past? And was it attractive to market participants? And how was it received generally as new to the market product? Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Adeni, would you like to answer that question?
Yes, I would. And so the first thing is that the reception has been very warm, and thanks to all the capital market operators that we have here in Nigeria. And so one of the reasons why we've enjoyed massive warm reception is, number one, they understand the impact it has on the beneficiaries. And this is testament to about 150 billion that has been raised so far from the capital market. And another thing is that they also have an attractive yield. because we're investing in agriculture where the returns is typically higher than other sectors, we've been able to extend that to them as well. So the reception has been very massive from those so far.
Okay, so
and also it has a lower risk profile since it's backed by commodities.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ernest. I hope that answers your question. And we have another question. That question is, and one is, what is the meaning of increasing as time passes? Is Manuel. What is the minimum investment? Increase their investment.
Sorry, I think you're breaking up. But if I got the minimum investment is 50,000 naira, and the minimum price is priced at 100 naira now as of today, right? So you can buy at after 50,000 naira, you can invest in multiples of 100,000 naira. I mean 100 naira per purchase. Hello.
Yes, maybe you need to take the other questions. I mean, I think Lighton is breaking up.
All right, so just a minute, because the minimum amounts, I think, what's the minimum amount one can start with? Well,
okay, so there's, yes, sir, we can.
Yes. Can I go ahead?
Yeah, please go ahead, Ismail.
Okay, the second question here is, what is the risk mitigation in place in case of loss? We have taken all necessary steps to ensure we have a loss appetite, or a very minimal loss appetite, to ensure that you don't lose your funds. It is based on our own expertise and experience in the markets over the last 2-3 years. We know when the right time to enter the market is and when the right time to. That's for the commodities trading aspect of it. But remember that your funds are balanced, right? So we have investments in the markets, market performance instruments that are driven by commodities traded on the exchange. You also have fixed income instruments. A part of your investments are also held in cash, at least 5%. So at any point in time, we're just ensuring that you will remain as liquid as possible, while also protecting your investments and ensuring that you're not overly exposed to any asset class that is too risky. On what basis is the investment founded? You say Muraba or Mudaraba. Our contracts with you on this Mabulala Commodities Fund is actually a Wakala contract, an agency contract. We take your funds and manage it for you as a Wakil. And the transactions that might depends on the fixed income instruments we're investing in. Some fixed income instruments might be based on Muraba transactions. Trading on the exchange is going to definitely be based on probably Mudaraba transactions, but the transactions we have with you are based on investor-client, manager relationship. We treat us as a Wakala, transaction. I hope that answers your question, Mr. Semselu. Then I think we've discussed this from Mr. Ernest. Mr. Ernest is reaching us from Ghana, and what has been the appetite? I think Nia shed some light on this. Thank you for the insightful. I want to understand if the investment is limited to Muslim investors alone. No, it's not limited to Muslim investors alone. We said it's part of the CBN's strategy to create a more financially inclusive financial system, and that's why, and the SEC, that's the Security and Exchange Commission, also has a target of trying to have as many Islamic finance products in the market as possible. So that's what we are taking advantage of, but it doesn't limit, it's not limited to just Muslims. Like I said, for a non-Muslim, you look at it as an alternative form of investment. You're trying to diversify your portfolio. So you might have invested in equities, that are maybe from a Sharia compliant perspective are not, they don't meet the standards. And then you look at the performance vis-a-vis a Sharia compliant equity investment and you say, okay, I could take advantage of both sides of the coin. That's the benefit to a non-religious bias investor. You want to look at both opportunities at face value and see which gives you better returns. Does Marble Capital hope to raise similar funds in other currencies other than in Naira for gold or petroleum? Yes, we would consider, as this fund is domiciled in Naira for now, and as the market expands, there are definitely opportunities that we'll consider, right? Akim, do you want to shed some light on that too? But for now, the funds are domiciled in Naira, and we'll also look at foreign domiciled, dollar domiciled investment in the future. I don't know if Akim wants to add some more.
Yes, I'll just add a few things to that. So yes, the answer Ismail provided is that currently this fund is domiciled only in NGN, in Naira. However, as opportunities present themselves in the near future, we'll look at being able to structure similar products in other currencies, perhaps USD or in other African currencies, depending on the industry we are in or the geography we play through. But what I will also add very quickly to that is, at the moment, the investments we are making are in agricultural commodities, but we are not limited to only agri-commodities. So we have the potential by the virtue of approvals that we have from the SEC. Any commodity that is approved by the SEC as a securitized instrument and that our investment committee believes that is going to be a valuable investment tool, option for our investors, we can invest in them. So if precious metals are approved by SEC, approved by our Sharia board, and the investment committee feels that it is a profitable investment for our investors, then we can invest in it. If it is petroleum products, if it's energy contracts, if it is condensate, any of these commodities that are available or that are going to be available in the near future, once it meets the criteria of being an ethical investment, halal approved, SEC approved, and our IC feels that it is commercially beneficial to our investors, then the fund is able to invest in it, any commodities that meets those criteria. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I'll throw this question to you again, Akim. They're thanking us for the beautiful session. Thank you so much. Is there any form of guarantee for this investment?
So the answer is no. I mean, this is not a guaranteed investment. Like Ismail mentioned earlier, I mean, this is a wakala type from an Islamic product perspective. So it is the return we get from the investment that we pass on to in the investors. So there's no guarantee. The only thing we've been able to do, as we demonstrated in the presentation I made earlier, is that the structure is such that there is literally a minimum level of low that you can have, the base that you can have, because we're also going to be investing some of these funds in fixed income instruments. What does that mean? That means that there is a base. I mean, if you're investing up to 25% in fixed income, it means that your principal can't go lower than that, than what it is, because there's already an element of fixed income that you are getting. However, on the upside, everything goes to you if so long as the market performs very well. And on the downside, what we've done is to limit the downward vagaries, the downward impact that vagaries of the markets can have on you. And like we said earlier as well, if you just project backwards and review the analysis of the fund over the last 5 years, you see that your return has been hovering on the average around the 32-35% benchmark, which means that all things being equal over the next 5 years, if you decide to invest in the Marble Allah Commodities Fund, you should expect a similar performance. So an average in returns yields in excess of 30%, on an annual basis on the average. However, there's no guarantee. So I must state that the projection is just based on past performances, which depending on the markets, it may not necessarily be the same for the future performance. But there's no guarantee, but we are structured it in a way that there is a buffer for the downside because we're going to be investing in fixed income for a portion of the fund. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's all the questions we have right now. I don't know if there are any other questions, please, you could drop it on the chat.
Yeah, there's a comment about the link. So I reckon if you can put in the chat box, Olaiton or the administrator, the link to the forms, but the investors are saying they are not getting the link. So please, let's address that.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ayowale. Please.
So I think,
Ismail?
yes, with that, so maybe I think we've come to the end of the session. If there are no other questions to be asked, I believe that presentations will be shared. Please feel free to reach out to us. I don't know if someone can, our website is our email addresses and phone number for further, if you have further questions on this, or interest in the fund. Please, how do we drop contacts here? I don't know. Olaitan, is that possible? Just
So
yes.
I'm asking some questions.
Last question. Yeah. Please, can I invest
So,
for a baby outside Nigeria? Definitely, you can invest for the funds out. You can invest for your minor, right? If you visit our website www.marblecapital Ltd. I'm sorry, let me see if I can drop the link there. www.marblecapital.ltd.com. I'm just putting down the web on the chat box now for everybody to see. Marble Capital Ltd.com. So when you visit the website, they drop down to the subscriptions. From there, you can fill your form and just send us the details of the form. Gives you the requirements to fill. You need a passport, your form of identification, and proof of payment. There's an account number to pay for the fund into our trusted account. And then if it's a minor, you need to provide your birth certificate. So when you visit the website, you go straight to Marble Halal Funds, the drop down, and then you see the subscription form. Right now, I think it's a PDF form. So you could just fill that and scan it back to us on the email address provided in the form. Because I hope that gives a bit of insight. I don't want to, or should I take people through the process now? Sorry, there's another question. Yeah, we'll send the presentation to your email. Your passport is how do I use this or passport? You just provide you as the minor would, you as the ward or the guardian of your ward would provide your own identification, right? But give us, you should have a form of ID too, and then give us a birth certificate detailing his date of birth. So this, I think, can you see my screen? This is the website. And I don't know if my screen is visible to everyone.
not yet.
All right, I think it's loading. Okay.
Yes, it's visible now.
Yes. So once you log into Marble, once you put that in your search, Marble Capital Ltd, not limited, please, Ltd.com, then you could check the drop down Marble Allow Funds, the subscription form you have for individuals and corporates. And then please, it's advised that you read the prospectus first before it's advised that you read the prospectus first. It gives you the MHCR prospectus. Every investor and speak to your financial advisors too. So the prospectus is also on the website for you to see. Having read that, you can go ahead and then fill the form, which is, you can either fill it handwritten, print this out and fill, or you could type it in. But please, when you're filling, make sure you use a black ink. And then it's for individual applicants, you can fill as an individual applicant, and then also fill as a joint applicant or fill for your minor, right? Sorry, the system is. So you have the account, the account details of where you're meant to fund, right? And within 24 hours after funding and submitting your subscription form, you should get feedback from us, letting you know that you've successfully subscribed for the Marble Allow Fund. I think that's just the basic for now, and as we go forward, we could discuss more. So I think if there are no further questions, and I think it's a good time to thank you for your participation. I don't think there are any questions again. I'd like to appreciate Akim for his time, and also Adeni, thank you so much for being here. I hope that our participants have been able to get reasonable or enough knowledge about the funds and about the commodity space in general. We will take your details, and the materials will be forwarded to you, and we would also reach out to you if there are any challenges that you may be facing. Thank you very much, and have a good day, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Good evening.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Oh, and please, on that note, please, whoever needs to watch, wants to make reference to this video, it will be made available on our YouTube page, and you can always go to our website at www.marblecapital.com, or you can go to any of our social media platforms at Marble Capital Limited. We're on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Or you can call any of our numbers or visit our offices for more information. And the subscription form and this presentation is going to be forwarded to everyone's mail for reference. Thank you very much for joining us, and we really, really, really appreciate your presence. Good day, everyone.